Great. Hi. Good morning, everyone. I'm Sandra Moscoso from the World Bank, here with colleague Sam Lee. And thank you for joining us for this hangout, where we're going to be talking about a great new app coming out of the Caribbean. But first, we're going to talk a little bit about why we're doing this, why we're looking at this app, which is fueled by open data. It's part of a broader research project. You want to talk about it?
Yeah, it's great to be joining you from Jamaica today. Well, some of us are joining you from Jamaica. But this is a project between the World Bank and in collaboration with the IDB, looking at use cases of open data. So, when people think about open data, work on open data, whether it's providing it, ultimately what you want it to do is, for it to have impact, it has to be used. Someone has to do something with it. And so together with the Inter-American Development Bank, we embarked on a research project where we catalog uses, try to highlight the interesting ones, and also put that out there in a sort of searchable and filterable set of information. And so the conversation today will fold into that larger research project. And I'll also let Antonio say a few words about what this means to the IDB as well.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Dave, for joining us today. From our side, open data and this research project is very important. It is part of a blog that we launched 6 months ago about open knowledge. And what we are trying to do is portray some cases of how people are using open data to solve problems in developing countries, specifically in Latin America and the Caribbean. And as I was saying before, citizen security is one of the most common problems in cities and in the whole region. So I think your case will help many people understand how can we make use of open data and how can we open up data for other social purposes.
Okay. Thanks, Antonio. By the way, this is Antonio Moneo from the Inter-American Development Bank. So I want to introduce now Crimebot, which is a mobile application that was developed in Jamaica that maps crime hotspots around any specific community or country. We first heard of Crimebot when the Crimebot team won the Caribbean Digital Data Jam in March. Since then, they have moved on to receive honorable mention in Montreal Startup Festival, which is July. So Dave Oakley joins us today from that team from Jamaica. Welcome, Dave, and looking forward to hearing a little bit about Crimebot, what inspired you, and your journey so far.
Hi guys, thanks for having me today. My name is Dave Oakley, and I'm from Kingston, Jamaica, and I am a member of Team Crimebot. Team Crimebot has 4 members: Adrian Smith, Kashi Hewitt, and Gart Thompson. Those members do all the heavy lifting, so I'm just here to package all the heavy lifting nicely for you guys. Crimebot. How was this whole idea started? Well, we got the opportunity to enter Digital Jam 3, the Caribbean edition, and what Digital Jam asked was if you could possibly find a problem in or around the world that you could use technology to solve. So what we did was we asked ourselves, what is Jamaica or what is the Caribbean biggest problem? We actually did a Google search, and while we were typing what is Jamaica biggest problem, the first 5 pages started to suggest crime.
Oh.
So we're saying, hey, well, this is a known issue that crime is actually rampant in the Caribbean. And so we say, why not try to find a way to facilitate crime being reduced? So while we're doing our research, we found that globally 58% of all crimes are unreported. Now, with this number being so high, it means that criminals are actually walking the streets, committing crimes, recommitting crimes with no redress happening. So why aren't crimes being reported, we asked ourselves. And a great majority of persons we questioned was that they were afraid of repercussions. They felt that the police could not have done anything about it, and a few percentage said that they may have handled the matter themselves. So this means that victims are now turning to crime in order to solve a problem. So the team sat down and we went through a bit of, I guess, self-searching and saying, what could we do to promote more reporting and in turn solve a good amount of issues that we're having with crime. So we came up with, why not make crime reporting completely anonymous? Now this won't solve the actual crime, but what it will do is that it will give the government or the persons who are responsible for crime solving intelligence that they didn't have before. So with this new intelligence, armed with this new intelligence now, they're able to better carry out their jobs in solving crimes and getting criminals off the street, offering some redress to persons who have been wronged and greater protection to citizens who may find themselves in the same situation, and also prevention, because if you know a crime happens and you're able to find out why and when the crime happened, then you're able to actually do some sort of preventative measures so that it doesn't happen to anybody else. So we found out more reports means more persons being prosecuted, and in the long run, more criminals off the street. We actually did research globally on the top crimes, and we kind of narrowed ourselves down to rape because it's a big issue and greater number of the demographic are women, and we found out that globally, 90% out of every 100 rapes, 90%, 97% of all rapists eventually walk free. So this now was a big issue. I'm saying this should not be happening. So Crimebot is our solution to a problem that is evident globally, and being from the Caribbean, we're hoping to spark a change. So eventually people are able to come here and not worry about where to go. They can just walk the island free, the entire Caribbean actually, and enjoy themselves as people ought to. And businesses will strive eventually. I mean, the government will save money. All the money is pumping into fighting crime can be channeled elsewhere. So our journey started with Digital Jam, and from Digital Jam to now, this is where we are. We've recently launched on Android in a sort of beta test, and I think in a month we had like 500 users with about 66% retention in terms of persons coming back to the app to see what's up. What we also realized in our research is that persons, I guess it's the time that we're in, persons are actually interested in seeing crime or gory stuff. So a great number of persons are actually in the app are there to actually see what's going on. We haven't really filtered in a great amount of reports from the ground, but we figure once user base grows, then reports will start flowing. In terms of open data that we use currently, we source data from sources that we call trusted sources, which is like the police, the child agencies that are responsible for missing kids, and also the government entity that deals with wanted and missing persons. So all that data is made public by the organizations, and what we do is that we scrape that data and we push it through our app. Now eventually how Crimebot API is set up is that once we are able to form a channel with these agencies, they're able to push missing persons, wanted persons, missing kids, alert about safety directly through our API that goes directly to our users to the app without us actually vetting the data because they're trusted sources. So missing persons and wanted persons is a big aspect of what we also do. There are a lot of persons missing, a lot of kids are missing. So weekly we try to push as many missing kids as possible so that we can spread the word that, hey, this girl is 13, she's missing for months. Somebody must have seen her somewhere. And also, we offer live incident notifications. So if you're in Kingston, for say, and there's a report in Kingston, you're automatically notified that this crime has taken place and this is how far it has taken place from you. So with that information, you're now armed to map safer routes home, or basically in your daily duties, you're able to safeguard yourself with Crimebot. Eventually, we hope that out of the millions of Jamaicans, we'll be able to actually have maybe 60% Jamaicans inside the app. Because Jamaica is just a pilot for us. We're hoping to go global, so we're doing the Caribbean, then South America, and hopefully Asia. So with all these high aspirations, we're looking for investors and mentors who could actually prevent us from making mistakes that have already been made and to point us in the right direction. We had a cool mentor called Francesco, who actually introduced us to a group called Ushady. I'm not sure if you guys are aware. Now they're big in open data, and we actually looked at what they had and mirrored in some sort of way what we want to do. Now, bearing in mind that data is very valuable, we'll be selling some aspects of the data we have, but the majority of the data that will be free will be good in terms of stats to persons who can see what type of crimes are being committed, what time of day are they being committed, and basically get the whole crime fighting system to a point where it's never been before, where technology is integral to solving issues and intelligence is flowing to the persons who need it. So that's Crimebot in a big nutshell so far.
Thank you for that. That answered actually a lot of the questions. But the good news is you've it's kind of brought it's brought up a few questions. So I guess one or two of the ones that I wanted to ask is what have been some of your challenges along the way in terms of connecting? I mean, what would you? I can imagine there are lots, like reaching users first of all. Reaching people who might be interested, people contributing, but then also any of the logistical challenges or getting data. If you could describe a little bit about that.
Well, we do have a challenge with data at the moment where we're at because what's happening? Because the user base is so small, reports are not flowing as we would want them to. But another challenge that we have was we need to form partnerships with agencies that will eventually become trusted sources. So we've been actively trying to form a partnership with the police, the child agencies, and basically security groups. Now this process is kind of slow and it's tedious. So we've had like 5 meetings with the police, and we have not yet found or reached some sort of concrete agreement in terms of what we are trying to do. So we understand that as a startup, the journey is long. So I guess it's expected that this should be a challenge. In terms of data, we're not really worried about data, even though it's challenging now, but we figure that once the user base has grown substantially, then data will start to flow in aspects that we never envisioned before. So it's a hope that once we are able to get some seed money, then we're able to do a proper launch, because we haven't been able to do a proper launch as yet. The users now are just word of mouth and I guess close friends spreading the word about Crimebot. But once we do a proper launch, I figure that we'll be able to have a big hit in our user base, and then eventually, once we prompt them a few times through notices and so report crimes, report what you see. I mean, no information is too dull to report because it flows directly to our back end. It doesn't go immediately to users. So if you send in something that may not be important, then we'll have trained guys on the back end looking at it and say, hey, man, this may not need to go to everybody. If you send in something that you think is important and we feel that should not be shared with the public, we want to be able to push it directly to the persons who need to know this data so that something can be done about it. And what we're trying to do is that we're trying to have a sort of community inside the Crimebot app. So we want users to stay inside the app and to come back repeatedly. So we do notifications. Once a new crime is there, your phone makes a noise like a message, and so you're prompted to say, oh, a new crime has occurred around me or somewhere where I'm subscribed to. So we're trying to form a community of social watchers, I should say, who are concerned about security and safety and want to see whichever country you're in a better place.
Wow, looks like you've given this a lot of thought. And I'm really impressed at how you're bringing all the different parties together. Because we're huge fans of open data, and I do have like one question. I know that the data is visible, the data that's collected or the reports are made visible through the app, but will you make any of that information visible or available through an API so that maybe others can use it in ways that you hadn't necessarily imagined?
Um, what we well, our first plan was for all the data that we collect, we will push it directly to the Ministry of National Security. So, and that would be unrefined data. So whatever person sent in, we'll be pumping that directly through to them, and they're able to access our network through our API. So we'll be giving them direct access. In terms of other persons needing data, for now, uh, it's completely free and open now for now, because we're not really looking at selling the data for now. So if, say, the statistical institute wanted to know how many murders we have in our system for Kingston, then we'll give them that data for free. If the World Bank was to approach us saying the same thing, that in our hybrid stage now, we're not looking to capitalize on the data, but eventually data will be a big part of what we have, and that would mean in some states it's valuable. So some aspects will be completely free because we want to help, and we wouldn't restrain persons who need this data to help from seeing what is actually happening. Because Crimebot will be able to tell what type of crimes are happening where, the exact time of day, and how many persons may have seen it. So data collection is a big part of what we do, and as I said, all the data we collect will be given to the government directly for free. So I guess they'll be able to disseminate it to agencies who may need it or persons who may be interested. But on a global stage, if we're able to say we're in 7 different countries, there might be persons who are interested in actually buying the data. We'll sell to those. But for government agencies and persons who of the state, it's completely free.
Okay. Do you have a question?
Yeah. So throughout the process of formulating the idea of Crimebot, putting it together, and putting the app together, and kind of rolling it out, are there things that have surprised you, whether it's about how people have used it, or has it shot off in a direction that you didn't anticipate? We'd love to hear about any of those unexpected surprises.
Well, in terms of surprise, what we were surprised about is that for Digital Jam, we actually built from concept to test. It took us 19 days to get Karma from concept to a working version. So that was surprising because as you know, with app development, it takes months of testing, and to be able to do what we wanted to in order to submit and eventually win the Digital Jam, that was a cool experience. And also where we are now in terms of where we were then. I mean, the product has grown substantially. It's where it was then to now, it's 2 different apps. It's beautiful now, and when we look back at how we came up with the concept just to enter Digital Jam, and how after Digital Jam we decided to pursue actually making it available and being real, it's really cool. And one thing that I must say that Digital Jam did was it opened doors for persons who didn't think that concepts could be made into real items. Because before we didn't see Crimebot, or maybe other person didn't see their app as being world changing or having some sort of impact. It was just competition was there. There was some seed money, and you thought, I have a good idea. Why not try? And that's what we did. And during the whole building stage, we realized that we had something that may be valuable and may help fight crime. And so the journey, I think, has been the most surprising for me. The twists and turns has been awesome, and we look forward to whatever is thrown our way. And as I said initially, we need help, and our doors, or let's say our email, is always open to persons who might have suggestions in terms of where the product should go. Because that's a big part of what Crimebot does. It gives users the ability to suggest changes. So if they're inside app and they see something that they think could work differently, then they send a suggestion back to us, and we look at it as a team. And if it's good, we implement it. If not, what we always do is we try to reply to suggestions. So we say, thank you for your suggestion. You're trying to help, and we understand. So we look at it, and then so we get users to feel some sort of, I guess, to let them feel that we're grateful for whatever they're doing, and the whole effort is a team effort outside of Crimebot team. So the journey has been what I love so far about this whole journey, app development.
I'd like to ask maybe a follow-up question in terms of
Sure.
how did the team come together, and what sort of what are their backgrounds, and sort of what is your background when you're not working on Crimebot?
Well,
Are
for
you
me, I
more-
am a IT specialist. I do computer management for a small travel agency, so I make sure the network is up and all the devices in the network are functioning well. And good days, this works out perfectly. On bad days, I have a headache. For Aldrin and Kashif, these guys are programmers, and they work for the largest telco company in the Caribbean. So they have a great understanding of enterprise programming and all that. Gar Thompson is a accountant and also a designer. So what we realized that the team is well-rounded in terms of what we can achieve. Everybody is multifaceted because the programmers were trained in business development as well, and working for the largest telco. I mean, the experience that they have is an integral part of what we do. How we met is that Gart and I grew up. So when I came up with the idea to enter the competition, I reached out to him and said, "What do you think about this competition?" He was for it. So we worked together on some small part of the whole concept, and he liked it. So we're saying, we're not, I mean, developers. We have some understanding of programming. We're not core developers, so we need programmers. He reached out to a schoolmate who pointed him to the direction of Kashif, and he was saying that Kashif is a genius and he can build whatever you want in one day. Well, this is true. Kashif is a genius. So that's myself, Gart, and Kashif so far. Now, Kashif works closely in his normal job with Aldrin, who deals with rollout of software and all that. So he said this guy will be a great addition to the team. So Al came on, we explained to him what we wanted to do, and that's how we started. I think the first meeting was at their workplace, and Kashif was sold on the idea from the beginning. We had to convince Al to get on board because we were saying it's gonna be hard. And eventually Al is some sort of our leader in terms of what we do. He points us to where we're going, what we should be doing now. So it worked out beautifully. The team is well rounded. Whatever we need to have done, a member of the team is able to do it, and that's great. And everybody is focused in terms of what we want to achieve. And because Crimebot right now is not paying anybody, we realize that there's genuine love for the product. So it's been the team and the journey all came together beautifully so far. So we're good. And so we have 2 enterprise level programmers, 1 designer slash accountant, and they do the heavy lifting as I said before. I'm just here to explain what we're trying to do. Yeah.
Wow.
That's great. Sounds like a dream team.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to offer Antonio the opportunity to ask a question.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Thank you.
Oh, great.
No, thank you. Thank you, Dave. I think you have already mentioned something in the beginning of the interview, but I would like to go back to your plans for the future and ask you what's next for you, and what are you planning to do, and how you're planning to do it. Basically, I think you mentioned like expanding to the Caribbean and to the rest of South America, and I wanted to ask you how are you planning to do it, what adaptations need to be made to the application, and yeah, what are the challenges in expanding to other countries?
All right. What we're trying to do next is do a version for iOS platform. Now, we're not yet we don't yet have MacBooks, so that's what we're trying to get right now. So we plan to enter the startup Jamaica program in hopes that we're able to get some seed money so that we can fund the next aspect of Crimebot, which is iOS development as well as for BlackBerry. Because even though BlackBerry might be practically dead in first world countries, it's a big it has big usage in the Caribbean. So we are hoping to do iOS next and a BlackBerry platform. If in terms of branching out of Jamaica, I must be honest, we have no idea how we're going to do it as yet. But we'll figure once we're accepted here and once it works and it's proven that it works here, then we'll be accepted all across the Caribbean. Once we can prove that we have done this and the product is good. In terms of how we plan to reach out, we'll be starting with, the government agencies that are responsible for crime. We'll do a basic research on what's happening in their countries, and then we suggest to them how this app will change the dynamic of crime fighting for them substantially. Francisco actually suggested that we should try a US state next, which is, I think he mentioned, maybe the Chicago or one of those states that has crime problems seriously. So we have a lot of suggestions in where we can go because crime is prevalent most places. So we won't run out of problems to solve. The hard part is laying the bridge from here to there and getting persons on board the team, persons with, I guess, capital who can fund our new ventures in new countries. So for right now, we're looking for persons to seed money, ideas, basically anything into the Crimebot core, and then we think it will work out once you're proven to be a good tool. So next step, iOS, capitalize on user base in Jamaica, get some serious results, get the government to acknowledge that this program actually did some help, then reach out to the next country that has a huge crime problem. Also, we have to look at, make sure that smartphone penetration is high enough to have an impact. So iOS, then work, move across to the next country, and repeat.
That's great.
I have a question for you. In terms of, is there any data that you'd want to layer into the app that you currently either don't have access to or you don't think is available?
Not off the top of my head, but as I mentioned before, what we want to do is that for now, the data like from the government, we're the ones who push that data. We want to take that workload off our table and hand it directly to the government. So we want them to push, whenever they're pushing reports about, I guess, missing persons or maybe a shooting is happening, we want them to be able to access our API directly and do that from their end versus us seeing that report somewhere online and then having to replicate it back in our app. It will make it more functional. So we want that to be a big thing of what we do. Government agencies actually playing a part in the Crimebot core. So they'll push wanted missing persons, general notices, we just get pushed directly to whichever area they want to push to versus my teammate and I scraping for the data online.
Yeah.
Because the data being placed online it's kind of slow. Person will be missing and it will take us 3 days to know that this person has been missing and the report was somewhere on the internet, but during our scraping we may have missed it. So we want that to be streamlined where if somebody's reported missing, the next step for the government agency, apart from posting it to the public, is pushing it through Crimebot. So I figure once we can tell them, hey, we have 100,000 users here, they'll be interested with us, so it'll be easier for us. So our main wish is that government agencies and stakeholders accept the app and use it and make sure that whatever data we collect is being actioned versus going to a computer and being stored for numbers at the end of each year.
Wow, that's good.
Do we have any questions online? Yeah.
It doesn't look like we have any right now.
Okay. Antonio, do you have any other questions?
No, not really. Well, it was more maybe like a suggestion. I think one of the things that I would do if I dare to say anything, because it's not my project obviously, but maybe it's like do more on data storytelling, letting other users know what are your findings and building stories of how your data, what kind of data you're producing out of the application, so people understand better the potential of the application, because surely you're gathering already data, you know what crimes are usually being put onto the application, and so it would be great to see on the website actually some of those results, and I think that would be a very conveying story.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds like something that we should do. Shoot my email so I can remember after this, because I'm nervous now.
But otherwise, it's great, and I think it has a lot of potential. I think that, yeah, as you said, crime is a very common thing in every city. So
Yeah, hoping to capitalize on that in a good way, I think.
yeah, yeah.
I'm almost wondering if you grow the user base to the point where you could start doing like predictive analysis on the data that you're
Oh,
collecting.
what
So,
we do, we do have, well, a function in the app right now that does crime prediction. But
oh
what
wow.
it does is that it uses data that we've collected, and it aggregates and tells you the likely percentage of a crime happening directly around you. Considering that we're just starting out, it's not as accurate as we want it to be, but it does work. So if you're in Kingston and you're in one of those, I guess, sketchy neighborhoods, you're able to do a crime prediction, and it should tell you the percentage of crime, the potential of crime happening directly around you. Now, what we try to bear in mind is that the percentage that we give is based on information that we have. So it's not a global percentage, it's just whatever data is in the Crimebot framework. It points out stats that there's a 10% chance that something might happen around you. So it's a working thing. What we're trying to do is integrate that into nearby searches. So once you pull down the first tab that is nearby, that's crime directly around you, it will tell you where there's a 1% chance of a crime happening around you. There's a 10%. So we're trying to get everything squeezed into as least tabs as possible, so persons know the core functions and are able to get any information they want quickly. But it's a part of what we want to do, crime prediction.
And how are you testing the algorithm? So do you kind of go back and sort of tweak it and look for time?
I wish I could answer that. That's Cash and Al's department. I'm not sure. I'm the guy that says, "Hey, let's do crime prediction," and they do it on the back. They do all everything, and it comes together. And so, yeah, they're the ones who actually work out the algorithms. I think it's basic maths. If it's likelihood, if this has happened several times before, the likelihood of it happening again is high. So I think that's basically the scenario that they use. So, but it will be eventually once the user base grows and more reports are in, then the numbers actually become more, I guess, real versus just a pipe dream now. So once we get, I guess, about 300,000 users, then we should be able to, I guess, to a degree, point to where crime will likely take place. Which would be good, futuristic.
This strikes me as how clearly it speaks to the fact that more data, more data sources coming in make it more valuable, right? So hopefully, building relationships with the government agencies that may already be collecting this data and creating.
Yeah, and we're also trying to incorporate past data inside our whole framework, so that eventually when we pump out stats at the end of the year or end of each term, it's more rounded versus just on one perspective. So data that the Statistical Institute has already collected, we're trying to get that data, and whenever somebody comes to us and say, could you tell me the amount of robberies that happen in a certain area, the data will be coming from two different sources, so the number will make more sense. So yeah, once everything on the framework is laid, we should be going with enough gas to get us to the next Caribbean country.
I have one more kind of silly question.
No problem.
And Sandra's probably really worried about what it is. But so before you came out with the name Crimebot, were there any other names that you thought about, or how did you come up with Crimebot? Because we love the Crimebot.
Yeah, I see. Well, Crimebot was actually a play on words. Crime and a robot that would be smashing the criminals. So Crimebot. It was actually our first shot, actually. Yeah, so it was a basic play on words. When we started with Crimebot, we were thinking about having a robot that is fighting crime, getting the reports and then pumping out criminals slaughtered at the end. And so we're saying a robot, Crimebot, Crimebot.
Cool.
Robot, Crimebot. Yeah, so it was our first shot, and I mean people seem to like it. So we stuck with it, and we're a robotic, technological app fighting crime with the use of intelligence, I guess. Yeah. But we
Well,
like the whole idea for robots being computerized and he's fighting all criminals. So that's where it came from.
cool.
Thanks for that.
No problem.
Question, Sam. Okay, well, Antonio, if you don't have any other questions, then I think we can wrap up and let Dave off the hook and give him a big thank you for joining us.
No problem. Thanks. Thanks for having us.
And we're definitely going to be following your work. We're really, really excited about your product, about your energy, about your music.
Yeah, we'll definitely keep Sam up to date on the music, the direction of the music. And guys, thanks for the opportunity. And as I said before, any suggestions that you feel might help this product, feel free to shoot us an email at crimebot.net or dave@crimebot.net. We're always open to suggestions, and we're not short on mentors. So if you want to come on board and as mentors, we'll have you.
Oh, great. Well, thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah. Thank you, Dave.
No problem.
Thank you, and goodbye, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.